This is Axiom Verge 2, No BS All Urns. BS here stands for boomerang steering. No boomerang steering is a glitchless category in Axiom Verge 2. It disallows all glitches, even minor ones, as well as a technique called boomerang steering, which is not classified as a glitch, but does allow for some fairly major sequence breaks. The goal in this category is to obtain all urns, which is the equivalent to all skills in Hollow Knight, for example. We're going to start off by fulfilling the Metroid tradition of going left to go right, but Axiom Verge 2 pays a little bit more homage to Castlevania over the Metroid sequences. There's less of a shooting element to it, and there's actually a much lower emphasis on combat in this game as compared to Axiom Verge 1, which had a very run and gun feel to it. So we go left, we pick up an ice axe, which allows us to break a bunch of crates and make our way into this station where we can turn power back on. You'll see me save warping a couple of times in this opening sequence because at this point there is actually no startup animation to loading a file. So save warping actually ends up saving several seconds over the course of this opening sequence. We have this little elevator here, and it turns out that if we duck and reduce our hitbox, we can actually sneak into the elevator a little bit faster. It's actually kind of funny that it works that way. But this elevator is going to irreparably transfer us from Earth over to some other alternate dimensional world called Kinger. So it does sort of look like we're still in Antarctica. We are on a glacier now in an alternate world. Now there's like nobody here. Everything's very desolate. If we were playing in the story mode of the game, there's a computer off on the right-hand side where we like sort of get some idea that something is going on, but we're going to completely skip that. There's this medallion here that we can pick up. It's a compass. It can kind of tell you where the urns are, but we already know where they are, so we're not going to bother picking that up either. And in order to pick up our first urn of the game, we are going to have to drown as fast as possible. The first urn can't be reached by normal means, so we can't strike it with our axe or anything like that. So we're going to actually clip a little bit into this block. This is not a glitch as such. We're not clipping through the block. We're just kind of getting caught on the geometry, which is what the game expects us to do anyway, which starts the drowning sequence earlier than we otherwise would by quite a lot, 15 to 20 seconds faster, catching yourself on the geometry there. So the urn then breaks and bestows on us the power of Amashilama, who is our companion for most of the rest of the game. This allows us to turn into a swarm of nanoclouds and use these weird altars to save the game. Amashilama does actually have one additional effect on our body, which is that we can now jump one tile higher than we were able to before. So our jump height has increased. There is one more augment to jump height later on in the game, but that's going to be quite a while. I said that this is much more of a focus on melee, and that's generally true, but there are times when you need to hit something at range, and for those times, clearly what you need is a boomerang. So we're going to come over here and we're going to grab our boomerang. What we're picking that up and canceling the pickup, the slash that occurs when you pick up, because you pick up by pressing the attack button, by jumping at the same time so that we can keep moving. And we're going to take that boomerang back, and that's going to enable us to hit a switch that we otherwise can't hit with our pickaxe. It's just too high and too far up there. In major glitches categories, you can actually get past that wall without having the boomerang, and so any percent major glitches completely skips picking up the boomerang. So we are able to come in here and pick up our second urn, which is Ninhursag. Ninhursag is basically power grip. Is that Ninhursag or is that Shishkala? That's Shishkala. Ninhursag is later. That's the wall climb. My bad. And the power grip is going to allow us to climb up over the glacier, which doesn't look very glacier-like. It looks more like a snowy mountain than a glacier, if I'm being totally honest. And make our way out of the glacier area and into Mount Eben, which is the second area of the game, where we're going to perform our first trick that looks like a glitch. it is not classified as one. It is a little bit questionable. It's an animation cancel. So basically what's going to happen is in one of these little huts in this camp, in the one that's right above us, there is an urn. This is raw. It is a charged melee attack. And if we exit the door through a door while the collection animation starts, then the collection animation doesn't freeze us in place. The door animation takes priority, and we're able to keep moving throughout the duration of the collection animation for the urn. And that actually saves about 6 seconds. With that collected, and that charge attack actually is not progress. It's not gating anything. It's just a totally optional skill. In fact, we aren't really even going to use it. We are able to climb the mountain and pick up our next real upgrade, which is Mushhus. So in the original Axiom Verge, the signature ability was the ability to glitch things into different states of existence in the game. So that was your meta power. In this, what Mushhus is, it's called infection. It's hacking. You can hack enemies and parts of the world around you. You can't hack everything, just like you couldn't glitch everything in Axiom Verge. But like, for instance, I can hack these platforms in order to make them move to get me where I want to go, and that's going to be that is required to move on from here. And in fact, infection, the hacking is so important to this game that it is literally impossible to beat the game without it. Even if you are using major glitches, you cannot finish the game without infection. So it's important that we pick that up. And with that, we are actually on our way to pick up another kind of signature Axiom Verge power, which is the drone. The drone, Damu, functions very similar to it, the original Axiom Verge. Indra basically loses consciousness right where she is and stays in one spot. And the drone can move around freely and be recalled to Indra at any time. A major difference between Axiom Verge 1 and Axiom Verge 2 is that having the drone out does not generate a field around Indra, so Indra can actually still take damage and even die while the drone is out if they are on the same screen. Another kind of interesting change with the drone from Axiom Verge 1 is when Indra throws the drone, like just falls off and chucks it like a baseball. And when she does that, she imparts momentum onto the drone. And if you open the drone egg early while that's happening, then the drone gets to keep that momentum as it moves through the air. A final thing that is different from the original Axiom Verge is that the drone can save the game, which it could not do in the original. But the person who gets spawned, or the character that gets spawned at the altar when you reload the game, is whoever was the active character when you save quit. So the drone can get places that Indra can't. It can save the game, and then you can recall it and save quit to move Indra to places that she otherwise wouldn't be able to get to. So we are now in the Giguna Steppes, and normally you would not be able to get here until you picked up a power that allows you to blow stuff up. But we are here early because of that save warping quirk. And we can pick up Ninhursag, which I mentioned earlier is the wall climb. So now in addition to power gripping things, we can wall climb. Wall climb in this game has a stamina meter associated with it, so you can only climb so far, and if you jump off walls, it actually eats a big portion of your stamina meter. So there are limits to how much you can do. So we are going to have to do some carefully measured movements whenever it is that we need to climb until somewhat later in the game, when we will get a technique to do infinite climbing without having to worry about our stamina meter so much. Over here, as we're climbing up to our next objective, we run into these little things that shoot hot steam out at us, and the best way to make those drones go away is to actually turn them into our allies. And so we hack them into being our allies, and that allows us to get our drone over here to our first breach pocket. This is not supposed to be the first breach pocket of the game, but the breach is a special area that only the drone can go into. It looks a lot more Game Boy-ish. Like the pixels are bigger, It has chiptune music. It's really kind of an interesting change of pace. But Indra can't go in to the breaches, and the drone actually can't be recalled to Indra from within the breach. The drone has to go in and out of the breach at designated entry and exit points. So we're basically trapped in here until we find a portal out. So even if we were to save quit, we would reload inside the breach. What we just picked up is this little grappling hook for the drone. It's almost kind of like a slingshot. It's called Iskiri. And Iskiri is one of our most important movement powers in the game because the slingshot allows the drone to move very quickly. And so we are able to progress much faster with that in tow than we would be otherwise. So we actually are going to be making a lot of use of Iskiri. These enemies deal a lot of damage, and so I'm trying to be super careful around them, but also not lose too much time, because if you do happen to die in the middle of that, you get sent back to an altar that is quite a long ways away. But when we emerge from there, we emerge from another altar, and we're actually able to do this save warp trick again to once again get Indra somewhere that she is not supposed to go. Now, by doing this, we're able to use the momentum from the drone throw again. So we're going to perch Indra over here and jump, and the momentum from the drone throw over here is going to get the drone over that wall. And this is going to allow us to escape Giguna Steppes without doing a fairly major story sequence in which Amashilama steals our body and leaves us trapped in the drone. We're just going to skip that whole thing, which means that we get to keep our body. So by falling the drone out this way, we fall into this area, this mid-game area called Irikar. It's kind of like an ocean sandy area. There's like a fallen city here, and it's all kind of very like ruinous and creepy. And we're going to pick up an ability here called Kilnimak. And Kilnimak is going to allow us to reveal the shape of the breach when we're not in the breach, and also allow us to reveal hidden portals into the breach. It also works in the breach to reveal the shape of the outside world, and hidden breach portals inside of the breach in certain places. We're not going to use any of those during this run at all. But by taking this breach portal here, we are also right next to our next movement power, which is Barash. This is a hover. This allows the drone to sprout wings and fly like a little bug. And that, in conjunction with Iskiri, with our little slingshot grappling hook thing, is going to form the core movement technique of this run. So basically, at this point, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using Iskiri to grapple onto stuff, and we're going to use the momentum from that grappling hook to then hover. And the hover preserves that momentum from the grappling hook, so we move a whole lot faster when we are hovering with Iskiri, or when we are hovering with Iskiri momentum than we would otherwise. So we're going to try to do a lot of that. An interesting thing about the hover is that when you start hovering, if you hold down hover, you'll gain some height, but as soon as you either release the hover button and repress it, or you do a screen transition, you lose the ability to gain height with the hover. Now, the upshot of this is that sometimes you want to slingshot across screens in the hover so that you can gain height on the following screen. But the real important thing is that in order to extend the amount of time that you can hover for, because hovering is a limited time thing, you do something called tap hovering, where you're basically just mashing the jump button as you are hovering to slow down your descent, but increase the amount of time that you get hover for. We're going to save here and recall to Indra, and we're going to send Indra over back to Mount Eben. We're gonna go get the explosion ability that we were supposed to get before, as well as an ability that makes us move faster through water, which is not strictly speaking required to get the explosion ability, but it is faster to do it that way by picking it up first. It is one of the urns that we need to pick up. Now the reason that we didn't do this earlier is because it is much faster to do this once we have the ability to impart momentum onto our drone and to hover and preserve that momentum. Because water movement is slow, as you may have guessed, until we get our ability, but it is faster if we can use the quick drone hovering. So we're going to make our way over here. We're going to get this game's equivalent of the gravity suit. It's called Liru. Liru, unfortunately, unlike the gravity suit, does not impart any damage reduction properties. But it does make us move faster and jump higher in water than we do on land, which is pretty cool. And so we are going to impart Indra's throw momentum onto our drone and tap hover over here. And that's going to get us to this upper platform where we are going to basically be able to shortcut our way to here. We're going to use a little bit of slingshot momentum here. You can actually turn around with slingshot momentum and preserve it in the opposite direction, which is pretty neat. And this, we're going to pick up Good Anna, which is an ability that only Indra can use. And what Good Anna does is Indra's body explodes in a shower of nanites and then reforms itself. And that will allow us to knock some blocks out of our way that otherwise would be impeding our progress. And we're gonna show that fairly soon. So we're gonna switch over to Good Anna from Kilnimak. And we're going to jump up here, and there's this block over here that when it gets hit by the shockwave from our explosion, just falls out. So we're going to pop over here so that we get this save point. And we are going to drop our drone this way. Now, if you do the hover at the right time, you can actually maintain the momentum all the way through that fall, which is certainly better. But we are instead. We didn't quite get it that time. We do want to pick up that that grappling hook momentum as much as possible, so that our drone can fly as much as possible. Now, this little creepy area with the weird ghosty jellyfish, squid, grabby things, I'm not really sure what you call these, leads us to another dimensional portal. And this dimensional portal takes us to a place called the Emergence. And buried in the Emergence is a really nice ability, but also the Emergence is, it looks like Sudra from Axiom Verge 1. It has all of that same architecture of the Sudrans, that was so prominent in the first Axiom Verge. There's also this creepy thing. It is never really explained what this is. So that's just a fun thing to chew on. And so here we pick up our next urn, which is... shoot, I forget what that one's called. But it lets... what it does is it lets us charge up our little slingshot grappling hook and shoot ourselves really fast. And while we're in that state, we damage enemies, and we can also break through certain kinds of blocks that we could not break through before. We're only really going to use the breaking through blocks aspect of things on that like once, but it is required in order to collect everything. And so it's actually very useful. We'll also be using it to maneuver through this area. There's actually a little shortcut that we're going to take that is it doesn't strictly speaking require the charge, but it is a lot easier to use it. So we're going to go ahead and proceed through here. There are spiders. It's not fun. And so we're going to climb the side of this building. Weirdly, Indra can't grab onto the laser wall while she's falling, but if she's climbing a wall, then she can climb it. So there we go. So we charge over there, and then we transform at this area, and then when we transform back, we're actually able to gain height again, even though we normally wouldn't be able to. And that allows us to make our way to this side entrance, which is much faster than going through this building the normal way from the right-hand side of things. So this is a factory of sorts, where they use all manner of technology that is very reminiscent of the original Axiom Verge. They've got like eggs and, you know, all of those sorts of things. And in fact, there is a big egg right here. So we have a gate in front of us, so we're going to enter this big egg. And the big egg is going to take us into yet another alternate dimensional area. And this one is a sort of alternate dimension prison. This is called the filter. And so, I mean, it's not a prison for us, but there is kind of access to a prison where a bunch of people that we want to let free are trapped at the moment. And so we're gonna grapple and hover and fly through there to get up to yet another egg, and we're gonna hack that egg and let people out of their prison. If you get a good enough grip on the top block of that, you can fast hover right by that and still hack it, and make your way to the exit a little bit quicker. Saves a couple of seconds. But I missed it. Having hacked our way out of that, also, it turns out, raises this gate over here. There is no other way for us to get past this without glitches. So we do actually have to go through the filter sequence. And so now we are in the worst room in the game. This is Spider Room. I call this Spider Heck in honor of a place that we called Spider Heck in the original Axiom Verge that only really shows up in 100% and 100% items runs. But I don't think that it's like formally called that or anything. Those spiders are very dangerous. They do a little over half your health and damage. So you can only really take 2 hits from them. And you really don't want to. So using slow on them is one of the only reliable ways to not take hits from them. So that ends up being kind of important. So getting through that factory was not just for the sake of getting through the factory. It also leads us here to pick up an very important item, the breach attractor. And what the breach attractor does is it draws breach portals to our location. You can get a fast fly off of that corner again if you hit it at the right height. So we're going to go ahead and drag this portal down here, open it up, and grab this urn right here. This urn is Halam. Halam allows us to exit the breach at any point we want to. We don't need a breach portal anymore, as long as it wouldn't put us in collision with the world's geometry. There is a long way around to get Halam that comes in from the outside of the factory, where the big faces were and the scary towers and everything were, but we're not doing that because it's much faster to come and pick it up right after you get the breach attractor. This gives us access to what is kind of the final quote-unquote important breach area of the game. This is what leads us to the ability that gates us from getting into the final area. It is not the last urn that we're going to pick up, but it is the last urn that is needed for us to beat the game without glitches. In major glitches, you can actually get into the final boss chamber with nothing but a pickaxe, a boomerang, or no, not even a boomerang, a pickaxe, a mashilama, drone, infection, and power grip. You don't need any of the other abilities. if you're using major glitches. But in no major glitches, we can't do that, so we actually do need the power of mist, as it were. So we're gonna go ahead and launch ourselves over here. This is the glacier breach, by the way. This is the breach in the area that we started the game. So we're kind of coming full circle here. You know, our first breach pocket that we were supposed to access was in the second area of the game, Mount Eben. We skipped that one. We skipped a lot of stuff, frankly. But you can hear the music. This is the first area of the game that we're in, but this is actually taking us to the power that gets us into the last area of the game. It was so close the whole time. So in this little area, we're going to halam ourselves out of the breach up here. And there's going to be this cutscene that plays out. So Amashilama, having stolen our body, is like, this isn't cool enough. I need to be an eldritch horror, and transfers herself into that body, leaving our body for dead. This happens even though we didn't do the body swap sequence. Shrug, and the trigger for that is picking up the Anuman urn. I didn't really talk about this earlier, but we picked up something that allows us to switch between Indra and the drone instead of Indra throwing the drone. That's Anuman, and that's supposed to be the way that you fix the body swap sequence that we skipped, is basically by allowing you to turn back into a humanoid form. That's the trigger for that cutscene happening. It is also the trigger for the final boss fight happening. It's possible to skip both of those things, but not in the All Urns category, because as soon as you pick up the Anuman urn, that triggers those things to happen. You can skip the cutscene by picking up Anuman after you get Tilhar, which is the mist power that we got there. And but that ends up being slower. So the reason that we've come around this like long back way is to pick up Usan Ra. And Usan Ra is a charged melee attack for the drone. We also won't be using that. We won't be using any of the charged melee attacks. So we now have 17 of the 18 urns in the game, and we will return to the Glacier Breach to go ahead and collect our final urn, Zal 2. And Zal 2 is actually a really cool one. It's sort of a shame that we don't get it until the very end of the run, but it ends up seeing implicit and extensive use at the end of the game. What Zal 2 does is it makes it so that anytime you use Eskiri, you get the effect of it being charged. You get launched as though you had charged up, charged up Eskiri. So you get that like little lightning chargy effect regardless. So I'm using my mist power here to stay up above the spiders and not aggro them, because the spiders do lots of damage. And now I needed to maintain enough of that energy to be able to get through here so that I could pick up the urn, but this is Zal 2. So we're then immediately going to halam our way out of here. And from here, we are going to go ahead and fast travel back to the beginning. We did pick up a fast travel urn when we were coming out of Erikar and into the like green lush area. And I didn't really talk about fast travel, but we've had that for some time, and you've seen me use it. It's fast travel, but you don't get that until the mid game. So you saw when I grappled onto that that ledge that I got that little like spinny lightning thing. That little spinny lightning thing right there. That is the effect of Zal 2. I didn't have to charge up my grapple to get that. It just happens now. And the reason that this sees such extensive use is because we're going to be spending a significant amount of time grapple boosting into the final area of the game, and also during the escape sequence. There is, in fact, an escape sequence in this game, unlike the first one. So a little bit more Metroid homage there. So this is the final boss chamber. And there's a weird thing about the final boss. So the final boss doesn't show up until we open the first of 4 valves in this room. We're trying to arm a bomb and detonate it. But we are the boss then goes and like tries to like cover these things with goop to prevent us from flooding them. But we can actually we're actually allowed to move while that cutscene is happening, which allows us to trigger 3 of them before they get gooped. And during the casual version of this fight, after you clear the first 2, she like adds a barrier around them, and you have to stun her in order to get to the last one. But if you get 3 of them before they're even gooped, then the 4th one she won't put the barrier around it. So you basically just have to break the goop and run. So that's what we did. We set off the bomb, or we armed the bomb. And so now we have to get out of here before it goes off. Our body, you might notice, like came to save the day after she trapped us. So it's holding her kind of in place while we try to escape and we grapple our way out of here. The funky thing about grappling upward is that it can trap you in the geometry. So you saw a couple of times I got stuck in the walls there. But that is the run. That is Axiom Verge 2, all urns, no boomerang steering. In 30 minutes, 46 seconds, and 47 frames. I hope you enjoyed the run, and thank you so much for watching.